And we're live with our 4th episode. Oh, wait, usually you give the intro, but I'll just go with it.
Whoa. Slow down. Slow down.
I know. Slow my roll.
And we're live with the 4th episode of Absolute AppSec After Dark. I'm your host, Seth Law, at Seth Law on Twitter, joined by my lovely co-hosts, Ken Johnson, at CK Tricky on Twitter. Ken, say hello.
We're doing our NPR voices this evening, and
yes, we are.
We
are keeping
dark.
A little after dark and intimate.
Yeah, we're gonna make it sufficiently weird. So
yeah, there we go. Sufficiently weird. That'll be the tagline on this one. Sufficiently weird. Sweet. All right, Ken, we are back to Vault Warden, and I am trying to jog my memory. It's been a couple months since we were in this. So do you want to remind us what Vault Warden is? Or do you want me to?
Yeah, well, since we took extensive notes, which are uploaded to our After Dark repo as of just now. So because of those notes, I'll go through, I'll summarize what it does. What does it do? Open source implementation of bitwarden.com, rewritten in Rust. This is the one I think that's built on Rocket, right? So Rust is the language and Rocket is the framework. Who's it do it for? Does it for external users? So like external customers, what kind of information will it hold? Like I had said before, it's bitwarden.com, kind of a open source version of that. So basically you've got passwords, TOTP, email, private and public keys, password hints, stuff like that. 2FA supported types are YubiKey, Authenticator Duo, YubiKey, Organization Duo, and WebAuthn. Although I've heard there's some kerfuffle over the name of WebAuthn these days, but nonetheless, what are the different types of roles? Users have user collections. Organizations have collections. Right, collections. So collections are collections of data, and they can belong to either a user or an organization. And there are owner, admin, user, and manager roles. By the way, this is a good reason, Seth, why we should always take notes. If you have to like pause on an assessment and come back to it, this is great. So the biggest concern here, can you guess?
Someone steals your secrets.
Cross-site scripting. No, I'm joking. Yeah.
Yes,
that's the rule.
No, cookie hijacking. That's got to be it, right? Like, did you know you could use a cookie and become someone else, Ken? That feels like a weakness.
You could copy a session from one browser to another. Yeah, there's a lot of good information here. So it's got Diesel as the ORM, and so and it uses Query Builder. Token libraries, JSON, Web Token, Yubico, TOTP Lite, WebAuthn, RS, and U2F. Several encoding libraries. So we brainstormed some risks. Looks like, we can walk through those together, but the first one's like mass assignment. So, I assume that's trying to mass assign a role type of some kind to give access that you shouldn't have. How are secrets and values being stored? Are encryption keys being used properly?
Yeah.
That makes sense, right? Randomization in token generation. JSON web tokens is the crypto algorithm defined? Right. So if you don't, some libraries, if you don't provide an algorithm type, it'll just default to none. Re-invite users in bulk. Abuse patterns here. Yeah, so mass spamming.
Yes.
Any ability to force the contents of a JWT. Yeah. Look at how the UUID... There's not much information there, but it says look at how UUIDs are generated.
Yeah, if they're predictable, it's always a bad thing, right?
Oh, it looks like you mapped out some good routes here.
Yeah. That's where I started, right? Because we did do the authorization, and I do have this up on the screen.
Sweet.
We've got the checklist there. I pulled a bunch out. we mapped out those routes, and I think down below there we do have authorization decorators as well, right? Or authorization stuff that we want to be concerned about. And this is where we were at, right? We had distilled down the application a fair bit in a couple of hours, kind of figured out how authorization was working. We mapped out, or I mapped out the routes at some point, right? There's these core routes under the API. There's some of the just the random web routes. And remember, like Rocket routes were interesting with their fallbacks, right? We had, we were looking into, crap, I can't remember quite what it was, but
I think what it was based. Yeah, they had a weighted. You could put a weight on basically on a path, and the idea was that they would do some matching on the type of like, so like if for instance, if in the RESTful path pattern, if like it was supposed to take an integer but you passed a string, and then they tried to like do a UUID parse, or excuse me, if you were supposed to pass a UUID and then it couldn't be parsed, so it would, the first path would be like, oh, this wasn't meant for me, this is meant for the next pattern that matches this, because it's not a parsable UUID, but all the other elements of the path look similar. So then it would go default to the next path. If it could be like, if it was a string that was supposed to be something useful somehow, and like that operation succeeded, you're good. Otherwise, they would default to the next weighted route that matched the HTTP path, that RESTful path, which was, I think we noted like there was some authorization weirdness there that we were concerned about. I don't remember all the details, but I do remember when we started doing some path parsing, we started realizing there were paths that I don't know. We have to. I think we have to go in and look again, kind of re-review the authorization decorators to get a feel for that. But that's the underlying issue that I remember, anyways, off the top of my head.
Yeah, and there's actually more routes, right? This was just the beginning, this list that we're looking at here, because I'm already seeing if I do a search through the repository, so like you'll see that note right at the beginning. And this is why we take notes, right? Like Ken already mentioned this once, but when we come back to it and it's been a while or it's been a year, like being able to quickly recognize that, oh, the route definitions follow this pattern of a, pound, open bracket, get, or whatever it is, or post, that, we can easily jump right back in at that location and see. Because I already notice that, oh, there's the admin routes. I haven't necessarily pushed all the admin routes or the identity routes in there. These were just the core routes that we've currently mapped out. So there's obviously going to be more to it, right? Like it's not a full listing, but at least it's a start. Especially as we start to jump down some of the different pathways and some of the different checklists, right? We want to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I realized when looking at these, looking at the authorization decorators, is there was this, there were functions that were built on other functions. So like the owner header, that's an authorization thing that took into account. So this is, by the way, this is where I think that we had some issues, meaning like, if one of these things went wrong, we would default to another path. So I know owner header looks to make sure that, it takes two things to account. You belong to the org you're requesting to do something against. This is where the whole like understanding of owner, admin, manager, like roles kind of come into play, and then that these authorization decorators are sort of like enforcing that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm kind of like realizing that. So admin headers calls. So this is the reusable one is org headers. That's what I was trying to remember. There's one that like gets reused a couple of times. So admin headers calls org headers, and manager headers loose calls org headers. And org headers takes a UID from the request, but it does this first from the path name and second from the query string.
Ooh,
that's what
right.
It was.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was definitely some confusion there, and we didn't get all the way through it, right? That auth.rs. So that get org ID function, right?
Yeah, I think when we got to this point, we were tired. It was like a couple hours in, and we were like, "Oh God, those sucks," because like we're getting somewhere.
Yeah. So we should probably start there, right? I mean, unless you want to start somewhere else, like we were starting to trace down these authorization headers and the functionality. So I don't think we were quite to the point that we were going to start into, the full authorization review or the full,
Yeah, I think we were just trying to. You're right. I think you're right. I think we were just trying to list the authorization decorators and describe what they do. We weren't necessarily looking for bugs. I think what we realized, you're right. And when we were going through this, I think we realized that we're like, look, this is interesting. This is definitely something we got to keep in our back pocket. And actually, this is a good time to maybe go up to risks, delete the default stuff, and add one, which is like verify that the the org header doesn't have some sort of weighted path issue, given that it takes the UID from both the RESTful portion of the path as well as the query string portion of the path.
It takes the UID from the query string and parameters, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So anything that uses org headers, we have to like kind of, got to figure it out.
Fusion. Yeah, I mean, because I'm wondering if we're going to be able. Yeah, I'm wondering if we're going to be able to abuse that, right? So if we put UUID in the query string or in the path, and then we pull something out of and a different one in the parameters or in the right, like if we put different UUIDs in those values, which one takes precedence and which one's actually processed, which one's used for authorization as opposed to checked for authentication purposes. Yeah, there's all sorts of questions that are coming into play there. That's right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sweet. I love it. That was line 414 through 415. Yeah, I see. So auth.rs called get org ID, and that's where we were sort of like, so really we're saying, let's back up here though, because we're saying org headers uses get org ID, but I just think something to keep in mind is that get org ID, if it's used anywhere else in this code base, might actually be problematic. So no, looks like it's just org headers. All right.
Okay, so get org ID is used by org headers, but org headers is used by admin headers as well, right?
Yes. And also we should look at we should absolutely look at headers just because that's where we left off, I think, right? Since it's the last item there. No, that's not very descriptive. So I'm wondering if there isn't more there. Oh, there isn't a lot there. Hold on.
Let's see. Let me show that one.
Oh, there it is. Sorry. That's line 322.
Line 322 on
auth.rs.
Okay. All right. So we should be saying auth.rs now. Yep. And we probably don't need this quite so wide. 322 is where we have.
And just to remind people that are watching, we're not at this point, like to Seth's point earlier, we're not trying to really dig in and figure out if there's any like security flaws necessarily right now. If something sticks out, then yeah, okay. But if it's stuff where we're like, oh, that might be interesting, or that, we just take a note. We're just trying to understand how the decorators work, and like that gives us a good idea of how authorization works in this application. Then we can move on from there and start looking at some of our higher priority routes. We can meaning like the HTTP paths that we've actually dumped out and said this application, serves and can be requested. So we'll try to go through the high priority ones there. We'll also go through the AAA checklist, authentication, authorization, and auditing. And then we'll obviously look for other interesting things and any kind of like business logic flaws, anything like that we can abuse. So,
yep.
And we'll be building out our risks and increasing the information, or as we increase information about this app, as we increase the information we're recording and understanding about this application. So you'll see the risks also increase that we list, things to check anyways, risks that we think might be something we should check.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Cause I mean, this get headers, right? Or it's getting from request. So you're saying here that this is actually okay.
Yeah,
So
if you go to
device
line
UID, user
yeah.
use. Okay, but that's pulling the UUID out of the JOT, right? The JWT,
Right.
not from the other locations. So it's interesting that we've got multiple places that this UUID is coming from. No device. Device has no user associated with it. So it's doing a lookup find by UUID. Checking to see whether or not the user is authorized. Stamp is expired. Valid security stamp. Otherwise, success. Okay, so that's doing validation of the JOT, but it actually doesn't. Wow, this is interesting because when we go down further and we've got the org headers stuff, it's not pulling from the JOT. Right?
Wait, sorry. So decodes the login for the access token. That's claims.
Oh, this is for the org ID. Okay. Interesting.
Device UID has equals the claims.device user UI. So there's a device and a user UID.
Mm-hmm.
And then the device is a find by UID lookup. That makes sense. User find by UID also makes sense. So if there's a user and there's a device, if user.security stamp not equals claims.s stamp security stamp, stamp exception as deref, and then current route equals match request. Okay, current route equals match request dot route.
Yeah.
This is weird, man. Then check if the current route matches any of the allowed routes. So the idea of this one is it'll check if the stamp is. So, So check if the current route matches any of the allowed routes. This is such a strange way to, at least at first glance, unless there's something I'm blatant, like just totally missing here. This seems strange.
Yeah. Well, it seems like so why would a specific route has a stamp exception? I mean, does that mean that it doesn't need a security JOT? You don't have to be logged in to get there? Is that what we're looking at here?
Maybe. Where's the commit? Let me look at the commit. Yeah, I'm curious about the commit message here and see what okay, so 4 years ago, first working version. I'm going to go look at the pull request. Oh, we should probably tell people about this. You can open commits up on GitHub pretty easily. And when you do that and you go to the conversation portion of that, typically you get to see a bit, if it was a pull request, I mean, like you get to see a bit of what was going through the mind of the person that wrote it. But this is kind of, oh man, it's a bit of a release tag one. Yeah, so strange. So if user security stamp not equals claim security stamp.
See, there's this stamp exception, right? .routes. So where's that defined? No definition found. Oh, great. Yeah. Let. Oh, okay. So it's pulling that from UG. So let's pass that in there.
Yeah, that one doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I guess we'll find out as we go on more. So, I mean, really, it's validating some sort of security stamp. And then if there's like a mismatch, I guess it's just going to say, well, this is a route that doesn't, belong to your, like your, oh. What do the routes look like again? Because I'm wondering, hold on, I have an idea of what it might be. I wonder if this isn't something where it's like, how some like multi-tenant apps, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they allow obviously like different organization names and usernames in the path prefixed before the the remainder of it. So like what? Let me take a look. So like accounts /verify password. I don't know if like it has the organization or the person's name inside the URL, and that's placed into a JWT somehow. Is like if you have this in your URL, you're okay to proceed forward with any routes that match that. I mean, that seems like that would be a dicey way to handle it, is like authorizations through parsing that value. But I'm just not sure. Like, I honestly am like really struggling. This is a pattern I haven't really seen too much of.
Yeah, I was just checking configurations and environment variable to see if there was anything in there that was related to allowed routes or security stamped routes, right?
Yeah.
But so far I'm coming up. This is pretty.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, what's it doing? I mean, really, honestly, it's saying like, grab the host from the request, get an access token from the authorization bearer token. Great, you now have a JWT, so it's going to perform some decode login function on the access token. It's going to assign an object as a receiver called claims. So the claims object represents that decode login value. It does it sets device UUID and user UUID from the claims, so the JWT token basically. So it's getting device UUID and user UUID from that JWT provided by the end user. It creates a database connection. It does a lookup on both the user and device in the database. Once it has a user object, it checks the security stamp of the user object in the database against the JWT security stamp. Oh, right. My God. Okay. So it's making sure that the user that's in the database that you provided a UUID. I mean, I don't really. Oh, UUID must be in the path. That must be why UUID is not in the freaking JWT. Interesting. So there's a set. Now, what does this bring to mind if this is true? When you decouple UUIDs from or some other identifying value from an actual like token and what that represents. Almost always some authorization issue occurs, right?
Yes, yes.
So you can't decouple those, or you shouldn't, purely, for the sake. I mean, why wouldn't you just have the UID and the JWT? I don't know. So Pretty interesting.
Well, that seems weird though, because they are pulling UUID from claims.sub, right?
Are they? Where? Let me look.
Yeah, I'm up on line.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
41.
I'm wrong. Okay, they did. Okay, you're right.
But that
then why are they doing it from the claim and from the?
I guess I mean maybe they're making sure that the claim lines up with the path UUID.
So they're extracting the UUID only to look up the user in the database by the UUID to then pull out the security stamp that's in the database to make sure that the JWT claim matches up. But that seems like, okay, so I mean, technically it's kind of like a second level of authorization. So I retract everything I said. It's retrieving the UUID from the JWT. That's one form of authorization. And the second is to then verify in the database that the security stamp hasn't changed.
Yeah.
From what they're presenting in the JWT. It doesn't feel right, but I guess that's what they're doing.
See, they're matching the request route.
Oh, yeah, I can drop the link to the Vault Warden for the person that asked that question.
Oh, yep. Yeah, we probably should have done that.
Yep. Great idea.
It is in our notes there too. We should drop drop the link to our notes as well.
Sure. And
invalid stamp for match stamp.
Vault Warden notes. These will be updated, obviously, but okay, cool. So both of those are uploaded for AppSec Tutor, and yeah, good times. Sweet.
Yeah, I'm still a little fuzzy on why we're doing this, right?
For extra security. No, I have no idea. I guess we will find out why that security stamp is so important. I mean, it says security in the. I guess what confuses me the most though is why are we doing some route matching, based off of. Well, hold on a sec. Is headers? Hold on. Case sensitive. Here we go. Okay, so interesting. Yeah, so let me make sure I'm not full of hot air here. I'm cleaning up my act. Seth. I'm not cursing as much.
Liar.
I'm becoming a good guy.
Filthy liar. And honestly, this is very true to form, right? Like, when we're looking at code bases, there's a lot of rabbit holes, or there's a lot of paths that you can go down. But all of these authorization issues, right? Like we always talk about these non-negotiables, and understanding how authorization happens is just so core to security that if we don't do it now, we're going to end up coming back and doing it next time, right? Like it's worth the time investment up front so that we can move past it and find actual authorization issues, as opposed to not being sure. Because I have done that in my career. I don't know if you have, Ken, where I think I've got a handle on authorization, move past it too quickly, and then realize after talking to the developers that I didn't understand that there was a filter in place or something else that was handling it. And, I thought I had 10 findings and really I had one, right? That's definitely happened to me in the past.
So,
yeah,
absolutely. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to burp, but carbonated drinks will do that to you. I'm not drinking alcohol yet. It's just Mountain Dew and Mountain Dew Zero, brought to you by Mountain Dew Zero. Actually, not. They're not a sponsor.
Brought
anyways,
to you by Absolute After
I don't know where I was going with that. Anyways, headers from request. Interestingly enough, this is on line 430, and sorry, my hotkey did not work. That was not actually what I wanted to, hold on. This is online. Let me give a better link here. If you look, you'll see let headers try outcome. So this online, so in auth.rs, line 435, if you look there, there is, that is the org headers authorization decorator, and that is using header. So that's grabbing, I think, unless I'm missing something, it should be oh wait, hold on, am I missing something? I just want to make sure I'm not like, yeah, it should be right. It should be like the header function that we were just looking at is being used by org. Hold on, sorry. I should flip them through too many screens.
This is for our org headers, right?
Right. So it's being pulled from org headers. It's being called anyways from org headers. So it's like, what is org headers getting out of that call? What is it using that from? I guess is my question.
Yeah. So headers from request, but that, headers from.
That's why I'm trying to see if like from request, if that's, yeah. See, now we call from request on, org headers. We call it on, like literally we do org headers from request. We do from request on.
Yeah. So
org headers, by the way, is called from a lot of places, right? So org headers is called from admin headers. Org headers is called from manager headers. And org headers is called from manager headers loose. And it's called from owner headers as well. So, but why I say that is that if org headers is using the headers extraction, then presumably all of those methods I just mentioned are also, through their chain, they're using the headers from request function.
Yep.
By proxy, basically.
Yeah. So we're looking at the headers, right? The authorization check that is happening, because it's all dependent on that headers, this implementation of from request, right? Which is what we're looking at, right? I mean, it's on the screen right now, where we were digging into those different claims.
Right. But it's just interesting to me that every single function essentially by proxy is using the headers decorator there to do that extraction. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if we're looking at like, why is this being used? We kind of have to go back to those decorators to see if what's the reason? What's the purpose? What is this really being used for? To me, it seems like, honestly, it looks like it. I mean, am I crazy? But it just seems like they're literally just checking the route to see if unless I'm missing something here. Oh, so this is just to check for exception stamps, basically.
Oh, see, okay. Yeah, because basically if the claims S stamp and the user S stamp are already lined up, then you move past that, right? So it's only if there's some sort of exception for that specific route or that specific client. And I don't know what what that actually entails. You're right. Why we would build exceptions into that, but that it does seem like that would be an abuse pattern or a place where we could abuse things. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think we should make a note here. We should pause and we should put in the header section of this document. You've got these notes. I think we should pause and say something about a couple things. So first, that this decorator is used by org headers, and that org headers is reused by manager headers loose, and I think admin headers uses it. Probably at least one other, I would think, like probably manager or something. But anyways, just documenting that's like that chain of usage.
Yeah, we are in there, right? Because it does have admin, manager headers, managers headers loose, admin headers, owner headers, and they all say they make a call to org headers, and org headers then makes a call to headers, which also makes a call to host headers, right? Right, but that's where that coarse grained validation of the JOT happens. And
but it's like
it's
almost like this is being used to say like, oh, I could see this living in a world where like you got an invite to an org, and until you accept it, or maybe you're invited to an org's resources for like a finite amount of time, and you get like a security stamp exception because you're requesting that path, and it's like, oh, you're not okay to use that path, but like let's check your exception. Oh, your exception says that you're okay to use the path that you're actually currently requesting. And then like, right. So then it would be like, okay, well, you're either requesting the path that matches the path we put in your exception stamp, or you're not. So let's move forward onto, whatever I actually don't know. I'm not looking at the code, but like whatever, I don't know what it does. Like if that, so let some stamp exception. Check if the stamp exception has expired first, then check if the current route matches any of the allowed routes, which I presume are, obviously because the stamp exception is the user's stamp exception. Okay, cool. If the stamp exception has been expired, remove it from the database. This prevents checking the stamp exception for new requests. Okay. All right. So if it expires, we do a reset.
Expired. Else if it contains the current route, or if it does not contain, right?
Oh, interesting. It's doing a check against both the secure else. So it's not doing both. It's doing an else if statement, right? So, so if the stamp exception route check fails, then it defaults to the security stamp exception dot security stamp equals the claims dot security stamp, and the claims is the JWT.
Well, see, this is funny though, because what I'm looking at on the screen, like line 382, and I know I think I'm on a different commit number, Ken, because I just pulled up the latest. But on line 382 here, you'll notice that the last else if is if the security stamp doesn't line it, does not equal the claim security stamp. But to get into this block, you already had to not be equal, right? So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Stamp exception. But now we're dealing with the stamp exception.
Is it? Oh, you're right. Yep. Okay. Yeah, you're right. That's
object
stamp exception. But that's just dereferenced from the user stamp exception, right?
Right.
Anyway, yeah. They probably didn't need that. They just needed an else there, right?
Well, it does come from the stamp exception versus the security stamp. And so, like, I don't, again, like, this is all really bizarre ways of handling routes and authorization, but still, it's fun. We're learning something completely new tonight. I love it. We're growing, Seth.
Growing.
You know what they say about growth? It's painful. All right. Now we're cracking the Mountain Dew Zero.
Need a little caffeine there. I see.
God, that tastes terrible after drinking Sunkissed Orange Zero. Jesus, that's terrible. It's like cough syrup, man. Ugh. I can taste the cancer in this can with the Splenda or whatever. It's false sugary stuff. It's used sucrose. Is that what they? I don't know. Whatever they use. Sure, it's not good for me.
Yep.
Sure.
Most things are.
Away the stomach lining.
Yeah. Let's see. I still really don't like this get org ID.
Right. Yeah.
I just keep going back to it. Yeah. There is.
Yeah.
Again, this goes back to kind of gut feel too, right? Like this fact that we're
a smell.
failing. Yeah. It's a code smell. why would we be pulling this from the request parameter or request query value?
I just think let me make a note under the headers and just say like before I can close out that and I'll just merge in whatever changes you have. Yeah, so I'll say like appears to be doing route matching based on a security stamp exception. We are guessing the exception occurs because someone has been temporarily granted access to an org resource. We say this because it's used by org headers. I mean, that's really the only other place I saw it used. So anyways, let me commit that up and yeah. Good
yeah, I just pushed some too, so you might have to.
Sweet.
Yeah. And down to really
quick. Cool. Wait. Oh man, what did I do? I'm an idiot. Okay, well, whatever.
It's fine.
Oh man, why did I do that?
Oh, there's a rate limiter in here too, Ken. I'm just going to put that in under important files.
Yes, please do.
Crypto RS, rate limit.rs. Dang it. Well, I'm going to wait until I can pull down your stuff and then I will. Let's see. Org headers. So match get org ID. All right. And it feels like it's okay. But I think this is where confusion can exist. So the way that org headers work is it pulls the org ID from the get org ID request. But if you have the query value in both the path, or if you have the organization ID in both the path and the query value, I guess that's going to depend on the different functions themselves and the different paths. So anything that has it in the path, that's where I'm going to want to look. I want to see where it has this org ID. Then we're going to drop those paths in there to check. So we'll do a search for that. Oh, wow. There's tons of them. Delete, but those go straight to find by UUID. Dead code. So, I mean, realistically, this would be a good case for semgrep, right? Is anywhere that we're using org ID that is in the path, right? So it's in like a get request or a post request, but then we also have a call to, or it uses organization ID underneath that. Because that's the other, yeah. So it's not quite the same. Right, so there's all those organization, org IDs.
Wow, there is an invite in the JWT, by the way, attribute. I see it on line 24 of the auth.rs file.
Okay.
That kind of confirms that suspicion there. All right, so cool. Validation leeway is 30 seconds. That's interesting. That's probably the skew, and the skew is 30 seconds is probably fine, honestly, especially with Rust, which is super performant. I would think that's fine. I mean, I know like usually the default is like 5 minutes for skew, but I mean, heck, they seem pretty confident with 30 seconds. So, see here, JWT. UT login issuer invite, emergency access invite. Emergency access invite issuer. Ooh, emergencies. That's good. Leads
Emergencies
to
are good. Yes, it does.
And code that was added out of a specific panicked reason.
Yeah, maybe I'll do this the other way. Organization ID.
Oh, and the emergency access feature. The comment when I went to the pull request for the emergency access feature, the committer said, "It's my first Rust PR, so please be patient."
Nothing bad ever happens there. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
Emergency access .rust. Sorry, I'm not going down the weeds, but I am curious about this emergency access. Like, what does it mean? Since it's in the authorization decorator file, I figured like I kind of want to, just like know. And I know you know that, Seth, but I'm just explaining for people watching. Like, if you see something that's like, I'm just curious what that is, find it, dig in. Just don't go too far down the rabbit hole. But since it's easy for me, I've got Git. By the way, let me just reiterate this. Git Lens is awesome. I'm using it on VS Code. It's a great plugin.
Yep.
It was free. I didn't pay anything. I think you can. I think there's like a pro version of it. But what's awesome about it is when I hover over code where I'm like, wait, why was that introduced? It shows the comment for the commit. And it also shows, like a hover window that has the link to like the PR and the commit, and brings me right to what I want to see. And like, I can see very clearly what the conversation looks like here in this PR. So, and I can drop, if it's helpful, I can drop what I'm looking at to folks in the chat. So,
yeah, you can do that. Or you could take over, if you want to drive for a little bit too. That's cool.
Yeah, no worries. I figured like while you're doing your thing, I'll kind of give an explanation of what I'm doing and why.
Where are we getting org ID from here? Okay.
Also, a pro tip: if you're ever looking at some pull request on GitHub, and this is specific to GitHub, and yes, I do work for GitHub. But anyways, if you're looking at GitHub, you can see the conversation. Even if it's a resolved conversation, you can expand it. And so, like, why that's important is sometimes you'll see questions from people that are like, "Hey, we're like, how are we doing XYZ from like maybe a security bend?" Or, "Hey, did you think about this?" Or whatever. Like, there might be some clue that there were some questions about like, "Hey, I'm not sure if this is the most safe way to do this," or whatever. So I like to look at the conversations inside of pull requests, not just like the conversation on the main page, but going into the actual files and looking through the conversations there. So
yeah.
And sometimes it's just stuff about reusing a function. So it's centralized.
So yes, it is. Yeah, there's some interesting possibilities for the org ID stuff, especially under ciphers/ciphers. But it doesn't, like, there's not a lot. It seems like it's pulling that basically from some JSON like posts and put requests, but not in a ton of places. That being said, though, right? Like, if you didn't, yeah, I don't know. I still, yeah. At what point do we build this and actually deploy it to play with, right?
Well, we can certainly do that for the part 3 of this series.
Yeah, we're not ready. You don't want to watch us stumble around with Rust for the next hour, right?
We'll just do later. Do that on the next one.
Do that next one. Okay, so why don't you jump over and see what you're looking at? Because I feel like we're kind of at a dead end with the organization ID stuff, right? Let's see, accept dash organization. It's only in 2 files. This is weird. Okay, there's a bunch of template files too. Handlebar, HBS. Org IDs are going there.
Since you called out handlebar, while you're doing all that, I'm going to look at handlebar to see what are the accessible functions, like the non-safe, raw, not escaped functions and operators are, and see if I can
that and
create a list.
Think about start creating that list. Think about like template injection too. I don't know if that is necessarily in our
SSTI.
Yeah, SSTI can always be fun.
Server-side template injection for those who are later going to maybe wonder, maybe not.
See, I'm going to add that to our list. I don't even know if it's in here already. Because I don't even think we have. Oh, we do have template languages handlebars, but we don't necessarily have template injection possibilities. Especially as it's generating emails and sending them out based on those handlebar templates, right?
Mm-hmm.
HBS files all over the place. All right, so I want to dig through. So I had auth.rs. What were the other files that we were looking at here? That were interesting. Whoa. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of email templates.
Oh, interesting. So I have to read this sentence to you, by the way, about handlebars in Rust escaping. It says, as per the handlebar spec, output using 2 curly braces on either side is escaped by default. To be precise, the characters ampersand, double quotes, less than, greater than, are replaced by their respective HTML, XML entities. Interesting.
Okay. But so what about 3?
Don't know. Don't.
Okay.
Wait. Yeah, no, there's 4 characters it's filtering for. So, and yeah, who knows how well that's being handled. So, there's just apply a custom escape function to be used. You can also use custom escape functions by registering an escape function. Okay. So that's something I'm going to start making notes about all this so you don't have to remember it. But this is interesting stuff.
Well, yeah, because it sounds like what you're saying is curly brace,
no
curly
escape.
brace. What's no escape? Yeah, that's
no escape. This is sorry. No. I'm caffeine's kicking in. No escape. So no escape is the pipe safe in Python or Django. Yeah. So that's, if you see no escape, I'll search the code base real quick because I am curious if it's even in there anyway. Anywhere. I don't see it anywhere. Would have been fun.
Boo.
Okay.
No, that's okay. Let's see.
But if they have a custom handlebars escape function, that would also be interesting.
Yeah. We'll have to see where that would actually be defined. I have no idea. Environment variables, config.js. Okay, I'm going to start knowing these. JS, config.rs. Files. Crypto, looks like this is where it's you doing password hashes, verifying password hashes, signatures, get random. Yeah, okay, so crypto.rs is important. Error.rs, I'm not as concerned about that. Mail.rs. Let's see. Because this is where it is importing all the handlebar stuff. Transport. But I don't know if it's actually how it's doing that. Oh, get text right there. Template name. Interesting. There's an HTML format. All right, that get text is interesting, as is the get template. Okay, all right, so mail.rs. So that's one I'm going to note as well. RS. Template. And get text. Interesting. And if you can't see on the screen, I'm just documenting these in our file again as I'm going through here because I don't want to dig too much right now. Main.rs. It looks like there's some warnings and other things in here. Config. I mean, this is the main configuration to start stuff up. Sends folder, attachments folder, log level. So this would be the equivalent of like the manage.py on on Django. You've got caffeine going, and I've been drinking whiskey, so I'm like struggling, Ken, right?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I'm actually like
rate limit.rs. That one's interesting. I don't know what we're rate limiting here.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely
login limitations. And then rate limit seconds. How quickly someone could actually try to log in. Login rate limit burst. That's what it is. Huh. So it's watching for brute force logins, right?
Oh yeah, that makes sense. They thankfully like at least they have that, and that's sort of one item. I guess we can't say whether it's been applied everywhere and applied well and works well, but at least that's something for authorization right there.
Ken, remind me, what is the XSS protection header? What is that value supposed to be if it's enabled?
1.
Okay, look at your screen.
They've got it at 0. Perfect. Awesome.
But they do have a comment in there, obsolete in modern browsers.
Yeah. Unsafe XS leak. And largely replaced. Oh, yeah, that's great if you have CSP. Perfect.
Yep. And they are doing CSP right below it. Frame. Oh, Chrome extensions, huh? Frame ancestors. But that's not doing a lot besides just setting those Chrome extensions. Anyway, I just thought that was entertaining. Why not set it to 1? Why not? Yeah.
So this is an interesting one.
There's some cores. Which one?
So I don't know if you can click on that link. Actually, let me put it in general. How about that? Put that link in there. So anyway, sorry, did you want to say general for those watching? I mean, in the Slack, the absolute AppSec Slack. So this is an issue one. Or did I say issue one? This issue is an I can't talk. I give up. It's very cool and awesome. I can't say the word interesting. Anyways, the issue is very interesting because they mention like, hey, there's context in which this may be unsafe. The way you're, allowing, or the way the context in which you're performing escaping of characters, and like it's not a very robust protection. And they're like, yeah, we're gonna take a look at that, and that was in October of 2020. Yeah. So the issue's still open. It was removed from a milestone on February 2021, so it doesn't look to be, too much going on there. So, and it's the only issue they have that has the word XSS in it. So, anyways, just something I thought was interesting and something to consider while we're here. I'll put it in the notes, but in any case, it's pretty interesting.
Without a certain template execution, it only uses one escaping mechanism. Different contexts are all escaped in the same way. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it interrupted you, but
nope, you're good. Yeah, I was just going through those, important files. I mean, those top level ones that are in, in the source directory are important. You've got your templates directory. But it is interesting because, I mean, from what you were saying, escaping is done based on curly brace, and then the greater than sign. Is that correct?
Curly brace. It's two curly braces. Yeah, that means it's escaped. Yeah, or it's at least those 4 characters I mentioned are converted into their HTML or XML equivalents.
Okay.
And no escape is not used anywhere. Now, I did notice in the handlebar spec, and I put this in the notes, which I just pushed up to the repo. I did notice in the spec it mentions that 3 curly braces typically means not escaped, but I didn't see that in the documentation for Rust implementation of handlebar. So I don't know, something to look into. To the point of, and it's fine because we're not going to get to it tonight anyways, but when we get the app running, we can always also just create a value in the template, give it the little curly braces, and then see if the XSS we give pops, right? So that's like, oh, and I guess we should probably tell that to other people. Like that's what we do sometimes. Sometimes we just, like, I have definitely gone through, especially after I had a repo that a code base that had like a couple times XSS pop up in ways where the operator on the templates documentation wasn't clear at all that it was not escaping users or just whatever values are placed in there, in this case user supplied values. So I ended up taking every operator from the documentation that they listed and putting cross-site scripting tags into each operator with a different obviously value, and then whatever popped, right? And then I knew like that operator's an unsafe operator. So just a pro tip for folks. The other thing I do that for is sometimes to generate, like, I'll use the cryptography function or routine that an application builds or has built to generate. So I'll use it and I'll generate a ton of signatures or whatever it is, like a ton of like whatever random tokens or whatever it is. And then sometimes I'll just load that up into Burp just to see if when it runs its analysis, does it notice an issue with entropy. But also to see if there's ever any dupes. Like you do this on the scale of millions, but if you find in 2 million or 3 million generations, which is easy to do on your local machine, that there's a duplicate, for a fact, like there's a problem here. So just pro tips.
So there is use of the triple hand or so you made a note, Ken, right? The no escape is the primary way. In the handlebar spec, usually 3 means raw HTML. Or we are seeing 3 curly braces used.
Yeah, which I mean, it isn't an email template, but still, not a great look, right?
Yeah, you're right.
So, but if there's any other uses of that, then if it gets reflected back on the page, like, hey, we sent an email address to the email you specified, and it puts that out in like the 3 curly braces, that would be potentially.
So this is probably, this is probably telling you to actually include, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what the greater than. I had to think about that way too long. That's what the greater than symbol, gives you. It allows you to include a file.
Email header. Yeah, so if we look at email header, oof, and that is all just straight HTML.
Mm-hmm.
All
right.
Sweet. Okay, so there's going to be some injection checks in there for sure.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. I put it under risks, or sorry, checklist of things to review. So there's the first item there is basically just pointing to the Rust. It's in the notes that I uploaded. It has a checklist item with a few bullet points on like, here's where this could potentially go wrong. Here's what the documentation states. So
yeah. Okay. So we've got some interesting files. We've got some routes that are in there. The most interesting.
The routes. I mean, do you feel like we're ready to move on to the routes and like move past the authorization decorators, or do you want to stick in that file for a little bit longer? It's up to you.
No, I think we move past the authorization decorators.
Cool.
I think we understand how that flow is happening, right? Like what depends on what,
right?
Kind of how the checks are happening there. Org ID to device to user UUIDs. I think I'd like to get more into the routes themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good, man. Now, which ones do you want to go? I know we prioritize typically by like account functionality, login, like what I'm trying to say, authentication, authorization related. Why how's my battery low? How's that even possible?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Sorry, my power adapter apparently got pulled loose and I didn't even know. So I got this note that I'm about to die. Sorry, not that I'm about to die, that my laptop's about to die.
Paste.
Ooh, there's also an attachments route. There's all kinds of juicy routes here.
I know. But yeah, I'm looking at the admin.
Tell you what, I'm going to hit the restroom real quick while you figure that out.
I see how this is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll just sit here and vamp.
I got this. You guys want to follow me to the bathroom? I mean, I don't think that's going to work. That changes the whole dynamic of this YouTube channel.
It is an after dark episode, Ken.
Good times. I'll be right back.
We don't need a mature audience tag on this.
I know, right? Hey, listen, we're pivoting. We're going to become an OnlyFans site. All right. This is
after dark. Yeah.
OnlyFans. Watch code review and weird restroom stuff.
Okay, stop. Just go. Just go.
Yeah, just go. All right, I'll be right back.
Yeah, so I'm starting to dig into the different routes, and maybe I'll flip to see what we've actually already defined. So I'll show that instead of the code, because I do want to add some routes to this. You'll see like the post route that I'm looking at right here, which is actually /admin. If we scroll up a little bit higher. And so I do want to define out some of those further, rather than just /admin. Yeah, because that's admin disabled. And somehow in here, we've got all these routes, API, create. There's the GET request. But I think this is being defined someplace else as we're coming into the routes, right? Otherwise, because we've got web stuff. Oh, maybe not. It looks like that's everything. So the admin routes are, nope, because there's a GET request right there for the web portion, which makes me think that the admin portion does have /admin somewhere. So let's just do a search quick for /admin. See where that's coming up. Okay, there's Cypher.
I'm back, by the way.
Well, that was quick. Oh, here you go. Base HBS.
Don't worry, I washed my hands.
Sure you did. I don't think you had enough time for that, man.
Public service. Well, my bathroom's literally like 3 feet from me. So
public service announcement. I get it. Yeah. Oh yeah.
PSA, wash your hands, kids.
Okay. Logged routes. Yeah. /admin. I'm trying to figure out, okay, here's the admin path. Oh, yeah. So admin path, config domain path / admin path. Let's see where that's actually used. It's in admin RS, which is where we currently are. Config domain path. Cookie is set as an admin. Start index. Admin URL. Huh. I was trying to figure out where /admin was actually being used. Yep.
So /admin is actually using the, so here, let me send you a link. It's actually using, if you go to main.rs, it's on line 364.
Okay. That's where it's actually defined.
Yeah, you can see that there's actually an admin routes. I don't know. I guess I'll be completely honest. I don't know what that is. If that's like a file or if that's a function.
Oh, yeah. No, it is. Admin routes corresponds to a function in API, which is admin routes, right? So that's what I'm looking at here. Yeah. Yep. Admin routes. Admin routes. Yeah. So the routes that are defined in the admin package, which is what I was just looking at.
I see.
Yeah.
Those all fall under that /admin bit there.
Okay. Well, and that's what I was trying to get to, because we were seeing some interesting stuff with how the get and post requests, like for the admin URLs in admin.rs. So for admin login, right? So if you do a post to admin /, then it's supposed to log you in as an admin, right? And that's where I was going. Yep. And that's where I was going with this, is it's a little convoluted, but main.rs, which means I need
so line 164, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's where you're at. Sorry, let me look at your screen. I'm trying. I have like I said, man, I have too many screens up right now. So you've got, okay, one. Okay, sweet. So data form is the login form, cookie jar, IP for.
Dude, do you know what I see right here?
What's that? You have create rate limit check.
Okay. Yep.
Check limit admin IP. If there's an error, then return flash error redirect to admin URL. So it's going to flash an error that shows the redirection to an admin URL with the refer value posted to the admin. Too many requests. Try again later. Oh, wait. So it's going to let you know that there's. Oh, and then there's an invalid admin token portion too on line 180. So there's some level of.
So 173 to 175. This is user enumeration or admin enumeration. So basically, I don't know what the rate limit is. I mean, we were looking at rate limit.rs, and there's an admin, like basically, burst whatever the configuration is set to, right? This admin rate limit seconds. But as long as I overwhelm that quickly, so basically I'd have to try, really quickly, right, in a second, like 2 or 3 times, to see if I get that error message. And if I don't, I know that account does not exist, right? If I ever see that error message, the account exists. This is definitely user enumeration right here.
And the check limit admin function is defined in the rate limit.rs file, which I think you were looking at earlier. So does a limiter admin check key the IP? Okay. Cool. That's not helpful at all. Oh, it's a lazy linter. Okay. Or limiter. So duration from seconds config dot. Wait. Are they setting this in the.
So in config.rs, looks like they've got to have some
new config admin. So they have it in the configuration defined as a rate limit in seconds, rate limit max burst, non-zero admin rate limit burst.
Yeah, and
Allow
it's like
burst.
number of seconds on average between admin requests from the same IP address before rate limiting kicks in, and 300.
So basically, I'll allow the burst up to whatever is defined in the admin rate limit.
So max burst, yeah. So max burst for login request is 3. So basically, you have 3 attempts within a 5-minute period before it locks you out, right? It's just an account or a limited time account lockout. But this is definitely user enumeration, right?
Right.
Which makes me think as well. We need to look from our rate limit RS, like there's the check limit login as well, right? Let me see.
But going back to it, I have to actually get back to that file to remember why you're saying it's specifically user enumeration. Is it that they're trying the username first and then it's like saying, no, that's not valid? So, right. So it's doing, it's calling the post admin login function.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
well, actually, maybe you're right, but it's doing this based on IP though. Interesting.
But like, it doesn't, it's not clear to me. So if the result, so that to error.
Yeah.
So, so if the result is a redirect, oh man, this is weird. Okay.
Let's see, rate limit, check limit admin. The IP address is something. Okay, it's doing a check key on that IP. So maybe it's not. Maybe it's not because it isn't. Like my initial thought was that it was testing it was doing that based on the username, the admin username, but it doesn't. It looks like it's doing it based on the IP address.
Oh, dude, this is what we realized, by the way. Sorry, going back to, not to bounce around too much, I just realized if you go up to lines 35 and 60, you don't have to, but if you remember, they had an array of routes, and that's how they determine, like, so the main path is like /admin, and then they've got these individually, like, even if the function's defined in this route, supposedly if it's not in this routes array, it's not going to show up, so it can't be called. Anyways, I think that's what the documentation said. So I forgot this. We knew this. I just like totally forgot. So let me actually take a second to note that about the routes.
So these are the exceptions then? That's what you're saying?
Not exceptions. These are the routes that you can actually call from within. Whenever you do /admin, it's going to be /admin /admin login /admin /get users _JSON. Stuff like that.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever. Or, sorry, it's going to call those functions, but those functions, I think, have their own. No. Sorry. When you call /admin, it's not going to be /admin /admin _login. It's going to be /admin, and then whatever path is defined inside of the admin _login function, for instance, like we're seeing with the login bit that you're looking at. That's what it's going to default to. So, man, the routing in here is just a little bit different for those following along. It's not our typical
get rank 2. Admin login has multiple rankings.
Yeah. And this is where the rankings and authorization, misuse, and all that kind of came up.
Yeah. Okay. Page content, admin login. Sure, that's great. Okay, so the IP address. Okay, that is, they're doing rate limiting based on the IP address. So there are bypasses available to that if we really wanted to, right? Like if we wanted to do something like the cores attacks that Kevin Cody, we've seen him do before, where it's coming from multiple different locations, that would be possible. Just to bypass that sort of rate limiting. But invalid admin token. So we're validating the token. Otherwise, we're generating admin claims. Wow, where's this going? Auth
token.
: generate admin claims. So that's going up to a different place. Going back to auth.rs. Of course it is. I don't see this as actually like asking for a username and password, Ken.
Yeah, and I think that's because
it's all based on IP or what? Or
no, it goes. No, I think it goes back to this route probably requires the admin. What is it? Admin headers, which I think the admin header.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong.
No, you're probably right. Device. Try outcome, org headers, org user type from admin. Okay, but it's pulling that from org headers. We only get org header set. Wow. Don't you love how convoluted this stuff gets, man?
Yup. Yeah. Fun times. Yeah. So, I mean, and I'm going to go back. Tell you what, while you're looking at that. Oh, no, you're looking at that. Okay, never mind. I was going to go look at the admin header bit there to see if it gave any clue into.
Well, look at this, right? Like, it doesn't require a login or no, there is a password there, but it's just an admin token. This is interesting. Form inline password is the name token, enter admin token. So there's not like a specific user. There's just an admin token that is stored that is used for admin authentication or admin authorization, right?
By the way, can we just give them a shout out for using same site strict on their cookie bit there? The only issue is I'm wondering. They're saying like they're adding cookies, but like if the token receive generate JWT and save it as a cookie, save the JWT as a cookie.
Yep.
So I'm going to put that into our notes around risks. I'm just going to note that like they're using JWTs as cookies.
Yeah. Yeah, realistically, they should be
or putting JWT values inside of cookies or not risks. I don't even know if that's like the right call. Maybe I just put it under like
best practices, informational, right? Something along those lines.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Behavior, brainstorming risk. Yeah, I guess what I'm gonna say is like.
Okay, because that's just it. Okay, so that's all you need to become an admin is you need that token that's on the form. So it's not a username and password. And this is what was confusing me, right? Is you do still you're getting a post request in, it has data. The data has a specific token that is validated. There is only one token. Create crypto CT equals.
Basically, if it's inside the cookie, it kind of seems like any cross-site scripting on this application could potentially. Well, that's No, I mean that's. Never mind. I'll shut up. That's
But that admin token is in configuration file too.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah. config admin token. Yep. If admin token is enabled but has an empty value, admin page will be disabled. Disable admin token. I'm going to look for admin token. This looks interesting to me. Yeah, so there's the config RS. That's what I was looking at. Disable admin token. Know the risks. Bypass admin page security. Sweet.
Bypass admin page security. You know the risk. Disables the wait. Can you scroll? What does that say? Disables the admin token for the admin page, so you may use your own auth in front. Why? Oh, I guess it's flexible. It's supposed to be open source, and people can.
Yeah, it's supposed to be flexible. So if you want to put like your own wrapper around it, yeah.
Okay.
Warning admin token. Where's match config? Ref. Okay. Yeah, so this is the default one.
It's a static value in the source code, huh?
Well, I mean, you're supposed to set your own.
Say.
Yeah,
right.
And this is the env template, right?
But this is a common pattern, man. But the problem is that we've seen like libraries that when they hiccup, they post out environment variables like as an error in production. We've seen like all kinds of ways to access, like traversal, file inclusion, whatever that allows for access to these files. Yeah.
If .env gets served up, it's not great, right? Like this should be coming out of a different way, but
ironically,
it should be it should be stored in the vault in and of itself. Yeah. It's a
pretty powerful token right there that we're looking at. So
yeah, it is.
Yeah. In any case, something to note. I'll create a note right now as a finding under
authentication.
General. Yeah, okay. Actually, I can put that under the admin routes. I'm going to put that under the admin route itself since that's what we're doing. We're going through that.
Right now. Put it under the login, and then I'm going to use the facilities as well.
Really facilities.
Quick. The facilities. Okay. I'll be right back.
All right. So I'll just remove your screen for a second to share mine as they can see I'm writing notes. How about that?
Yes.
All right.
Woohoo. Okay. I'll be right back.
Go use the facilities. Wash your hands, Seth. Or don't. You're a grown man. Don't be gross, though. All right. So I'm just going to do exactly what I said, which is to create some notes. So in any case, all right. So we're going through the admin routes. Hold on. I got to get by the way, again, pro tip, save yourself some time. Create a shortcut key. I use Command B. But yeah, I do that for copying these like permalinks to where things were committed. So if I do that, like do the Control B, I've got like this nice little pretty sort of a link in Markdown style formatting that I can paste. But anyways, what was I doing? So right. So what we're looking for, we were in. Oh gosh. Already forgotten. I think it was admin cookie. Something along those lines. Oh man, he's gonna laugh when he comes back. I've totally forgot what I was gonna write down because my memory sucks. Let's see here. It's also late. Let me just follow what he was doing there. Generate claim, admin claims, that function. All right, that's under auth, which uses JWT admin issuer. Gosh, let me see real quick here. Add back to stream. Admin token. There we go. All right. admin token. So you're going to laugh while you're gone. I totally forgot what we were looking at, but thankfully your screen was still there, so I could like swap over to it and I could see what exactly. Oh, I wrote it all lowercase. Anyways, yeah, because I literally like couldn't remember from 5 seconds ago like what the name of that token was. I guess I should have remembered it was an ENV. Oh man, I am getting tired. I've been working nonstop since 7 a.m. So nobody criticize me or do.
Blah,
just
blah,
know
blah.
that feelings get hurt. Cool. So admin token.
Yeah. I mean, it's commented out. So, but yeah, how many times do you see people just go through and say, "Oh, that's required," and just uncomment it and move on? You would hope they would regenerate it based on the comments above that, but it doesn't always happen that way.
ENV file even. This is the env file in the env file, and therefore is statically set. Even if changed, this could be for sure problematic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, just something to kind of call out. All right, back to you, Seth, and your screen.
Back to me as I'm just like digging through the rest of this env.template now.
It's added note about admin token.
Have I been pwned? API key.
Nice. Nope. Nice. So credential stuffing prevention, basically, it sounds like.
I don't know. I don't know where it's actually used.
Sorry, not have I been. Well, actually, yeah, I don't know.
It's like it's used under. Oh, it's just a look. It looks up your username and sees it and checks to see whether or not it's been in a breach. That's what it's used for.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah. Not sure what it'll do with that info, but would be curious to see.
Interesting. Go to have I been pwned account to see for a manual.
I'm going back to that. Oh no, sorry, I'm talking to myself. You can ignore me.
Ignore Ken, everyone. Ignore Ken
all the time.
No, you're fine.
Don't I know it?
Settings. What is this file doing? Damn it! There's way too many. Okay, here's routes. Mod. Move this. This is my favorite comment of the day.
What's that?
Move this somewhere else.
Okay. My favorite comment of the day is, yeah, no, that's good point. We should get to that.
Yeah.
Though I am no one to criticize. You don't even want to look at RailsGoat right now. Like, I haven't touched that project in so long. I feel so bad. There's like open issues and pull requests and stuff. And I just, every time I think about it, I get exhausted and then I procrastinate more. Let's see here. Crypto trim config. So the validation of the token's weird. It's just like
you look. So you're looking
config.
Admin RS. Yeah.
And I just need to call out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, that's what took me down that rabbit hole, right? It's just doing a match to see whether or not the token that was presented is the one that's in the environment. That's it. And then if it is, you're allowed in.
Yeah. Is CT underscore EQ, is that like constant time equivalent? Yeah, constant time equivalent in Rust. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Because I was like, is that okay? Cool. Yeah. Because like I was thinking, because we've definitely seen a lot of comparisons throughout this this whole code base where it's just not equals, right? To be like this, and like part of security critical functions. And obviously for those obviously you know this, Seth, but for those watching, if you don't do a constant time comparison when you're performing comparisons, there is, and depending on obviously the context, there can be timing attacks that, are possible because you have a variance in the time it takes to execute a function and return a response to the end user. So if it's a security important function and it's, you know, taking some comparison, something you may not want enumerated, right? Like a username is a good example, you know, whether a route exists, stuff like that, whatever. If you're doing some sort of constant time comparison, you're safe. If otherwise, you're not. That's what I'm trying to say. So when we saw in the code base the validate token function being used on line 198 of admin.rs, you know, it's important to make sure they're not just doing like an equals, that they're actually using some kind of function. Again, we saw this CT underscore equals, which is like a constant, you know, time equivalent check in the Rust crypto library.
Yep. Okay, so that's, I mean, that's authentication for the admin, which it is authentication, right? The token, presenting a token, and then getting that set up for the authorization stuff. But I'm starting to wonder too about the other login, right? So like user login, how that's actually happening. That was the next rabbit hole I was going to kind of go down, is to figure out how that's happening. Unless you've got something else that you want me to look at.
No, I'm just kind of going through like the routes to figure out what they do. Like I'm just curious. Like usually my process at this point is to start going through each route, figure out like what each route does, take a note about it, start to really understand the composition of the application. We already know where authorization is occurring and like how those functions should be pulled in. So for us, when we're going through here, we want to make sure that, again, like this is for everybody watching. I'm going to stop saying that. I think you just know. So,
yes.
Wait. What the? Sorry, I went to the top to validate something, and I just happened to see content raw HTML. So, anyways, I'll get to that. That's something we should look at on line 11. But anyways, what was I talking about? Right. No. So we're going to look at when routes are, you know, when we're looking at the individual routes, we're going to try and look at like how they're actually authorized. You know, sometimes authorizations apply to like 47 out of 50 routes, we'll say, or whatever. Like there's a few routes that just don't have it applied. But I don't think that's the case here. I think we did. Sorry. Again, I can't even talk because every time I scroll a little bit more, I'm like, ooh, interesting.
Ooh, this is interesting. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so identity.rs is where I am finding good stuff. It's doing identification. Shocking, I know. And another name for identification. What?
Oh, no, never mind.
Fresh login. Data grant type. So this is doing connect tokens. That's not that is login. Interesting. So that's where it's actually building two-factor, duo email, auth client IP, DB models. That's a very posting to connect token. Is there other login? Password login. Okay, there's a password login. It's asynchronous.
I'm wondering if I'm just trying to understand what that content raw HTML is for on line 11 of this authorization. I'm just going to make a note of it and we can come back to it. That seems like.
Wait,
sure,
which file? Which file are you in?
I'm still in the admin RS because I was going through each one of those endpoints, trying to figure out what endpoint does, and like still, you know.
Okay, and then what line were you looking at?
11.
Oh, where it's doing the yeah, I see what you're saying. Response is raw HTML. That's Rocket content raw HTML. It's HTML flash and redirect. Okay.
And this is a thing too to be aware of. Like sometimes people, sometimes people will have the notion that raw HTML needs to go into flash error messages. But however, they'll generate those flash error messages using user supplied input like incorrect username or something like that. And then if that, and that's because, obviously the flash error has to be rendered in, HTML to like give the design and the look and feel. So sometimes people will mistakenly return the entire flash message as like just raw HTML. I don't know if that's the case here, but it certainly is interesting to see raw HTML, right? Like that's for sure something that I would check into. So I'm just leaving a note. We don't have to dig into it. I'm just leaving a note right now.
Okay, I definitely do have something right here.
Perfect.
So lines, I'm on identity RS. I'm doing authentication checks because I like to do authentication checks. Apparently, I'll get into logging and auditing in a little bit because that's my other,
Passion.
My passion. I don't know if you see this, Ken, but this is definitely like standing out to me.
If not user.check valid password, username and password is incorrect. Try again. Format. I obviously no logging whatsoever there. So wait,
that's not necessarily.
Wait.
Look at
it's using error.
Here.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's using error.
Okay, so starting at the top, 102. All right, so get the user. Username equals data. What's data? Is that just what's been provided as
that's the post data? Yeah, that's the post data.
So username as ref.unrep trim, user equals user.find by mail. Well, first of all, find by mail username. So it's finding the user by the username.
Yep.
Oh, so it has a oh, I see. So are the errors exactly the same? All right, so
like yeah.
So user find by email. Wait, what does some user do?
So
is that just for the Is the error being printed out to the screen, or is the error something that's being logged?
I think it goes back. It's part of the response. Like we'll have to look at what error actually does. That'll be in the auditing section, right? The logging section. My understanding here is we've got await, and if a user is found based on this find by user, then it returns and sets the user, right? But okay, we haven't made it through this whole authentication process yet. So the next thing we do is we have a user object, and now we're going to check the password, right?
There's going to be a timing variable there for sure.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm leaning into, especially because we're calling user check valid password on line 110 here. And if I look at what check valid password does in the user model that's associated with that, what does it call? It calls crypto verify password hash, which also has password iterations, which means this isn't a constant comparison or anything like that. This is definitely, we're getting returns very quickly, like sub milliseconds. I would be surprised if there wasn't a significant timing difference between a user that does not exist or a username that does not exist and one that does exist. Or I could be up at night and I've had too much to drink, but I'm pretty sure this is a user enumeration, a user timing enumeration attack.
All right. So it's now, can you go back? So it's crypto dot validate password. Is that what it was? Or verify password hash? So let's see, verify password hash. I'm just curious if that's like a function that uses constant time. I mean, there's still going to be a variance just because it does that lookup first. But I'm curious what verify password hash does in Rust's crypto library. Let's see here. Password hashes and password hash. It's not super clear to me right now. Oh, this is interesting. password auth in Rust from scratch. I need to save this. Tax and best practices. Interesting. We talk about a timing attack. This is an interesting article. I'm actually just going to post this since we're live on YouTube. It'll go in there. For posterity.
Crypto 030, building crypto systems in Rust using Rust Crypto Projects ecosystem.
I guess I should put that in Slack too. Did you guys run a clock on the code base? I'm curious about the size of the application. Was a question in Slack from Aaron. Did you run a clock on the code? I'm curious about the size. I can. Let me see.
I haven't. I haven't. Yeah.
I can run it real quick. Don't tell me what time I'm waking up, Flux. No one needs to know that.
CD Vault Warden. I'm going to be a little clock period.
All right.
Pub use password hashing function. Yeah, it doesn't even dig into what that actually is, does it?
No, not really. So it's not clear, but there's still a timing issue there. So I would say note it in the route, or I guess it would be so for identity, is that just the user login? I wasn't even sure what that's about.
That's that is user login. That's under identity.
Oh yeah, I guess I get to look at there.
It's under password login.
Yeah, there's two routes in identity.rs: login and pre-login. I'm guessing pre-login is like registration, but I guess we find that out as we go through.
Yeah, so it's when it does connect, right? So you do
dude.
I know there is, yeah. So it does a post to connect token, right, to actually do the login, and then it checks to see whether or not it is, if you're using one of the other plugins, right, like a different provider or whatever else, and then defaults to password. Data grant type is password during the login process, but that's where it's happening, right? It's the connect token post underneath. This is identity.rs. So if we look in main, where does identity.rs get pulled into? Oh, I've got too many files open now here too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's going to be /identity/post/token. Or sorry, identity/connect/token.
Okay. Sweet. Yeah, I saw that in the log. Okay, I saw that login function there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good times.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I again, I know I've mentioned this on the podcast multiple times, but in the last 2 years, I think there's only been maybe one application that we haven't found user enumeration in. From a dynamic and a source code perspective, it's just such a difficult problem to solve. I mean, in this case, it seems like it'd be fairly straightforward, right? Like we're doing a password login. We don't want to return here without having a similar time difference to what we do when we check the valid password. So it doesn't even have to be, right? Oh man, but then you'd have to import the crypto library to actually run this. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass for sure, but it wouldn't be that difficult to implement, a crypto call right here before you move on.
Mm-hmm.
Or before you return the error message. That's all. Yeah. Anyway. Cool. Okay. So that's that one. Okay. I'm having code smells right here too on the next in the next section with disabling of passwords coming from a specific IP address. If the user is not enabled, user has been disabled. This tells us whether or not the user is actually you've presented a valid username and password. So from a credential stuffing perspective, I don't know how a user is enabled or disabled. If if that's some sort of lockout, this may be a bigger issue.
See that this user has been disabled. Yeah. Well, and if you're an organization, it makes sense that you disable users, disable access, not users. So you'd have to be an admin. That would only make sense if you're some sort of admin, or I wonder if the manager role gives you that access to you as well. Like if you manage.
Yeah, it just looks like you can disable. Yeah, it's not. Yeah. So you disable a user and it deletes all of their devices and all their security stuff. Just sets them to enabled equals false. So I mean, there is some credential stuffing that's there, but it's not as easy as, hey, I lock out a user and then get that detail back.
Ooh, remove 2FA would be an interesting one if I was trying to attack something. If I didn't have authorization. But anyways, we can continue down here. That is just, dude, this is a lot of code jammed into what should probably be some discrete functions or something along those lines versus like, some of this stuff is very lengthy.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It definitely is.
Identity.
It's you could tell it's getting dark, right? Like my camera
you're
can't
super
see
dark
me anymore. Maybe I'll turn on a light.
There you go. I'm telling you, man, you got to get these. You got to get these Lumeri lights. That's what.
Yeah, I know. For the After Dark episodes.
Yeah, man, they're dope. Let's see here. Hold on. I'm going to give you some Lumeri while you look through code. Some. How do I do this? Ken's office. I'm going to get. Ooh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Beautiful.
Beautiful. Blah, blah, blah.
It's so cool. I can also do regular lights, but that seems lame. So I won't do that. Ooh, that's red lights. Very cool.
Dead. Got a dead light up there too. That's no good. Let me see. Let me see if I can even still.
There, I could go back to normal. That's really bright. There we go. Anyways, super fun, super cool. Lumeri, highly recommend it. Cool. Again, neither Lumeri or Mountain Dew sponsor this episode. Waiting for that call.
Sadly, waiting for that sweet sponsorship funding.
That sweet Lumeri funding.
We'll get T-shirts that just say Lumeri across it. And,
I'm going to start promoting the competitors to the people whose products I like if they don't sponsor us. How about that? Yeah.
Malicious sponsoring. Yeah.
My petty self.
Cool. All right. Now what am I looking at? Check password.
Who knows?
Okay. Okay, this is still the password login. That's why. All right. I do that. The check limit stuff seems bizarre to me too, right? Like the rate limiting. I mean, part of me gets it, but where it's IP based, it feels like this is outdated.
Brittle AF. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
So, I mean, that kind of falls under the authorization checklist, or not kind of, authentication, checklist. So,
it's rate limiting.
Yeah. I'm just going to note it under authentication.
Okay.
Let's see here. So, rate limiting. We've got some issues here. application, an example would be the password check, or sorry, the thing for rate limiting. I meant for timing attacks. We've got some issues here throughout the application where we're not performing constant time comparisons. Or in the case of identity.rs, we have a situation where we are, sorry, can we go down here? I'm just going to copy the code. Do a lookup of the username there, and then a separate lookup if the user's returned.
Account email. What is this master password hash that's coming in through data? Like, why are we passing around the password so much? This is weird. I guess to change the email, it's requiring the password to be presented.
No, so I mean that might make sense depending. I'm kind of writing this note, but let me switch over.
Finish your thought.
Well, no, I mean because it does kind of make sense, right? Like sometimes you want to add. It's kind of that idea of like a high risk operation requiring reauthorization. I don't know if that's what we're looking at, but I'm just saying that's the one time I would see like a password required to change something like an email address or a security key or something important like that, right? Why is it master password hash? I don't know. Because actually, I mean, the first two. But
but it's, well, that's how it's passing in the password, right?
Oh.
It's coming in as the master password hash, and then it's checking it. But, okay, registration, accounts register. Yippee. Otherwise, registration email does not match invite email. That's fun. There is enumeration in the registration flow as well.
Sweet.
Of course,
that is, I mean, like super common. Obviously, you know that, but yeah, super common for those watching. Usually, it's like login, registration, forgot password, and account updates or edits of some kind. Like those are the 4 places where it's the most common to see some notion of enumeration. Let's see.
Yeah, because it does a find by email, look up if the user does exist, and the password hash is not empty. It says the user already exists, so it gives that error message. But if the user does not exist, it'll allow,
Nolan Boyd had asked, I don't know what data is or where it comes from, but if it's the data I'd seen earlier, data came from post params. The body of a post request.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is. It's the master password hash. I wonder if they're using that master password then to unlock the vault as well.
Order is important. Oh.
The invitation check must come first because the vault warden admin can invite anyone regardless of other sign-up restrictions. Cool.
What are other sign-up restrictions?
So there's this configuration, is sign-up allowed? Right? So basically, if you're an admin and you invite someone, they can sign up even if the configuration says sign up is not allowed, so the registration flow doesn't exist normally, you still want users that you send an email to be able to sign up, right?
Yeah, good point.
Which is, yeah.
So
I mean,
what
this
if
also
you directly navigate? Like, how is that invite being generated? Like, is it a unique link that's being generated there?
Yeah, I would think so.
Because if not, it's like, well, if you can just out of order, like to their point, breaking the order, if you just directly call the sign up link.
Invitation take. I want to look at this too.
Yeah, we basically have to see how. Yeah.
Where's my invitations here? Okay, where are invitations coming from then?
So that's the emergency access bit that we were talking about earlier too.
Send. Oh crap! I just closed that out. Where was I at?
Oh, actually, yeah. Where were you?
I was in.
I didn't look at the file.
I was in users.rs, wasn't I? Yeah.
Man, we are definitely getting tired.
We have been going for a couple of hours, right?
I've been going, a couple of hours.
On this.
No, early, on this. Been going all day, all night.
Crap! Like really, where was I? Wait. Oh, I did a find that I was in.
Well, it had to be around registration, right?
Yeah, accounts registration. Because I was looking. And the reason I was doing this again, I'm kind of moving through authentication. I know I haven't flipped back over to the template, but I'm going through kind of authentication checks here. I'm looking for authentication flows for possible vulnerabilities at this point. We know enumeration is always an issue. Anytime that we're generating tokens to authenticate users, that's where we're getting to here, right? Hence the reason I was find by email. And then we saw that lookup for invitations, but the invitations have to be coming from somewhere. That's some sort of invitation : take.
Yeah, and to expand on what Seth is saying, typically what we recommend if we're giving this course is we recommend you go through your routes and you determine based off the list of routes you've created that you've mapped out, you figure out which ones are authentication related. And obviously we showed you, something you've got to look at is how authorization's occurring, what the decorators look like, where they're located, and then how they're applied to the routes that you mapped out, right? So that's the author. So let's talk about first. You've got a list of routes just in general. Then you've got your authorization decorators. You figure out what those are, how they're applied, etc. Then you look at your authentication related routes, right? And you start digging into your authentication related checklist on the authentication routes, like any routes that touch authentication. Then when you're going back to the authorization part of your checklist, then you start to look at first of all, are these applied to all the routes that it makes sense to be applied to? Are there vulnerabilities in the authorization decorator itself? Does it have flaws? Because you're coupling, you're basically going through your authorization checklist. So you're doing that. And then after all of that, we typically recommend the next thing is it's not after really, it's kind of during those two is we're looking, because those typically are areas, authentication and authorization, where logging is pretty critical. So that's why we also have it as a AAA, right? Authorization, authentication, and auditing. So while you're going through those checklists for authentication and auditing, you're also looking at, authorization and authentication, you're also looking at auditing checklist to make sure that things hey, they failed the check. Are we logging that? Which if error is just something we're returning back to the user in a flash message, which seems to be the case, we're not logging anything here. So there's nothing that I've seen anyways being logged at all so far, really.
Yeah, we'll check errors when we get to that. Okay. I think there is during this registration flow, I cannot see anywhere that it's validating, like if an invitation exists,
Mm-hmm.
that it's validating like the email to a token, right? Check this out. When it does the take and it does a find by mail here, it basically just returns, hey, that user is allowed to register, and doesn't actually check any token values, right?
Wait, so just if it had ever been invited at all, it's allowed to bypass the check? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It's creating a user based on the email address, but there's no actual. So it does a token here if the user exists, right? This here.
Mm-hmm.
But if no user exists, well, maybe this wouldn't work because I don't think the invitation exists. Wow, no. I don't think this token is verified. That's what I'm trying to say in every case where it should be.
Okay, so let's go through it. Starting where? Line 70?
Okay, yeah. So line 70. Well, okay, so we get a post to accounts register.
Right.
And it contains certain data,
Which is
including the email
presumably
address.
the
Yeah.
parameters, yeah, or the body.
Yeah, it's the post body, right?
So lowercase, cool.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got an email address. We do a lookup, find by mail, await. If a user exists, okay, then it steps through that enumeration that we already found.
Wait, go back up.
Otherwise, yeah.
Okay, so sorry. So the user's found. If not the user password hash, so if the password hash is not empty, then we do a check on the sign up allowed.
Yep.
And if the sign up is allowed, why would they say user already exists if the sign up is allowed? I'm confused. Or user already exists. Sorry, user already exists. Okay.
Yeah. So the user already exists,
see.
And sign up is allowed. And so, I mean, registration is not allowed or a user already exists. That's fine, right?
Right.
And then we're pulling the token. So if this is not the case, so if the hash is empty, that means an invitation exists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right, because they couldn't have set up a password yet.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as long as the account doesn't exist. Or wait. Oh, right. Right. That's the only scenario that would make sense is that if you had given an email address, they created that record, they didn't have a password hash. Though, if there was ever a situation where you couldn't have an account and not a password hash, you would presumably have issues. Or you could use it. Anyways, all right. Not going down that route. All right. So,
yeah.
Data.token.
Claims. Okay. So there's some decode invite from the token.
We've seen that before.
Yep. You're checking whether that claim email is equal to the email that was provided. They've got a match. But, okay, we've got this like else if. Okay. So if there's no data token, you don't provide a token, you're going to fall to this invitation, right?
Oh, that's the take that Null Void mentions. Okay. Sorry. I missed that. Oh.
Which one? Yeah.
Just in the comments. Yeah.
Static invite. Yep.
Right.
It's calling invitation take. Yep. Yeah. So, but this is what I'm saying. Like, so if you don't provide a token, it does a lookup to see whether or not, you were invited by a specific organization, right?
So as long as you don't give a valid token.
If you don't give a valid token and you guessed a proper email, it'll let you sign up, right? And so,
Yeah,
but that also means that, okay, so this is very similar. Remember what happened in Laravel when you didn't actually have a user that existed, right?
yeah.
I was able to take that over. So in this case, if the organization is, it has invited you, or down at the bottom, if an administrator has invited your email address, but you haven't signed up yet, if I can guess what that email address is, I can then pretty much create a username, create a password, set the password for that using master password hash, because it's not validating that that token was sent to a specific user, right? Or a specific email address. And am I reading that wrong though?
I don't know.
I feel like
I'm
that's
having a hard
this.
time just because it's scrolling up and down a lot. Let me
Sorry.
go.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. No. I just have to like open it up myself. Yeah.
I mean, it's all starting from this if let some token is equal to data token, right?
So all right.
But that is going to
So tokens
fail if
provided,
there's,
decode invite.
yeah.
If that fails, so if claims.email equals email, then there's a user else registration email does not match. So then so claims.email equals email. So return a user. Okay. Else if there is no token provided, take the email and then user org and user. So user org, find invited user by their UUID. And the user comes from the user find by, okay. So find invited by user that user UUID. So it's just making sure that the user.org equals user org accepted as I don't know what that means. I mean, presumably that's just the integer value. User org.save. Wait. Oh, yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think you're right there.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you're right because yeah, it's like if you don't provide a token, it's just going to default to that second clause there, which is just going to look up the email address that you provided. Right. Well, hold on real quick. Just make sure. Yeah, because email, because on line 70, that's just coming from line 68, which is a user provided value. Yeah, I just wanted to be absolutely sure, but honestly, this looks like you don't provide a token. You're able to
you're able
get a
to
user
register.
return. Right.
Yeah. Which, well, like, and this will be interesting too. Let me see. Where are my templates here? Because is there a registration template? I don't know if this is a registration template. Users enabled. See, I don't know where this post is actually coming from, or if there is a specific page that allows for this.
No, Void, I think you're right, by the way, when you said I think there's something like a JWT that is a bearer for invites. So what we've seen is a pattern throughout this application. I'm not sure if you just joined a little while ago, but the JWTs are used heavily throughout this application. When we talk about access tokens or tokens, it's always a decoded JWT. So you're absolutely right there. Yeah, that's what that token is. But yeah, if we just don't give it a cryptographically sound value, then cool. Just like awesome. That's just wow.
Well, and this too, right? Like if you do a find by mail and it fails, right? So there's not a full, because what does find by mail do? What lower mail? And it does a run. But that's doing it based on invitation. Oh no, this is the invitation. That's why. Sorry, my bad. User find by mail. In the users table, it looks up and says, does a user exist? Right? Yeah, this is interesting. Because so if the user doesn't exist here, right? Some user, it doesn't currently exist because we're doing a user lookup. Then we're just going to bypass all of this. Defaults to none. And then it does a look to see if the email address has an invitation available to it, doesn't validate any token. And if it does, then it creates a new user using the email address provided and moves on to, all right, let's do the rest of creating a password and data keys and all this other stuff. Looks like we'd have to provide a bunch of other things in there, but at the very least, we could just spam. We know that the organization is using Vault Warden. We know that they've sent out a bunch of, it's not a, sign up allowed. It's invitation only. We spam that email, like internal threats. Somebody new, say you get a new administrator in and you want to just take over their account, right? Like you could potentially do that. I mean, you probably wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, it would cause like user confusion and user denial of service, but it wouldn't necessarily reveal any of the secrets because the user doesn't exist yet.
Right. But here's the thing. If you're invited and you guess the access, or you guess the right email, and then you like sign up, right? Don't you then have access to whatever your organization allows? Like you've been presumably invited to an organization. Wouldn't you then just have like, they've granted you access to the invited user to, I don't know, like XYZ resources that belong to the org, like passwords or whatever?
It could be, right? Like I mean, that's the fear.
I love it. I love what Noel Voigt said. Lurk on LinkedIn for job announcements for that target org.
Yeah, exactly.
And then like guess the email pattern for that org and then send that email over to that to this function and see if it comes. That's brilliant. That's there you go. I love it. Super smart.
Yeah, whoa. I think this is. I mean, at this point, I really want a running instance to test some of this out, right?
Yeah, I know. I can for the next episode, I could definitely have one spun up. Honestly, I forgot that we wanted to have an instance. Actually, I forgot that we didn't spin up an instance. I for some reason thought, did I not? Didn't I work on Docker with this? Oh, I think I might have actually worked on a running instance of this and got one running.
It's been too long since the last time we did it. So
yeah, we got to do these more frequently so we like don't forget.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I am getting hit up because I need to go help with something else, Ken.
Totally fine. I'm getting tired. I'll be honest. We've been going on it for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, but
just on this podcast, but you and I have been working on code stuff all day since early this morning. So
but okay. So for the next one, and let's try and we'll schedule something out in the next like 2 or 3 weeks to follow up with this. But we'll have a running instance. We'll validate this authentication flow here, the registration flow, some of the user enumeration findings, and just continue on because I think there's still more to explore. This has been super interesting.
There's so much more. Yeah. This is a fun one, and we'll get a running instance. I want to say 2 weeks. Let's shoot for 2 weeks out because if we do 3 weeks, I'll be at LocoMocoSec, which is a remander. We are training at LocoMocoSec for those who have stuck all the way to the end. Just a reminder, we're doing LocoMocoSec, and then we're also doing training at DEF CON. So we're giving all of this
And
yeah,
DEF CON
the same stuff
registrations are up, Ken. They just announced that. We'll post the link via Absolute AppSec, and watch Twitter or watch Slack if you're in Slack.
Bro,
yeah.
Check this out. I did something smart for once. I actually sent myself a link so I could easily post our course. So you can for DEF CON anyways. So thanks, Nolan Void. Appreciate you participating, and
yes,
I've put in the link for anybody else who's gotten this far, and expect to follow up in a couple weeks on this episode, if not next week. I mean, I'm honestly like really, I don't want to get too far out before we do another episode.
Same.
So
Same.
yeah, because it's more, and also like it's starting to get really juicy, and
yeah, it really is.
We should.
I
don't know. Should we consider?
Well,
I don't know. We may want to like reach out to the maintainer.
Yeah.
It's probably smart to at least give them. Right. Yeah. We should at least probably just let them know we're doing this. We're starting to get deeper into the application. There's starting to be some things we're uncovering, and so we should definitely do that.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Well, you and I will work on that. We'll post about it in Slack and on Twitter as we move through it. But within the next couple of days, we'll want to write that up and push that across. So
sweet.
Cool. All right. Well, good call. Thanks everybody for joining, and we will catch you all online.
Thank you so much.